Well, Danya, thank you so much for being with us today. I know we've had a chance to kind of talk about a lot of the issues that are facing Arizonans, and I think that you've got a story to tell, and we appreciate your willingness to be willing to come here and talk to us today. And one of the reasons we're here is that, I had a son who struggled with some drug addiction, and ultimately that's not what cost him his life. He died after getting clean, and we feel somewhat blessed, but you're a family that also struggled with somebody who lost their life to fentanyl poisoning. Kind of walk us through. That's Hannah.
Hannah, yeah.
And how old was Hannah?
She was 16 at the time.
And tell us a little bit about what happened with Hannah.
So this happened to her in Phoenix, and she was at her dad's, and she had a boyfriend that was 18, and he was staying at the house with them. And he apparently had a little bit of an addiction to Percocets. And he had a friend that he would call and get Percocets from. And one day, Hannah had decided that she wanted to call this guy up and ask him for some Percocets, and she hadn't really taken them before. So we were kind of still wondering as to why she even did this. But so she got the Percocets and she took one, and she ended up going into cardiac arrest almost instantly. And when we went to the hospital, it turned out that it wasn't a Percocet, it was a pure laced fentanyl pill that she had taken.
And how did you get the call? Or how did you find out?
I got a phone call, and it was my son's 21st birthday. So I got the phone call and I saw it was my son, and I thought, oh, he's calling me to tell me how his birthday went, and so I answered the phone, and I was just like, hey, how's it going? How's your birthday? And he just was screaming. He was just like, Mom, Mom, and he's all, I think Hannah's dead. And I was like telling him that's not funny. I said, honey, that's not funny. Don't talk like that. When I saw her in the ICU, I just looked at her and knew that this was, they had called me on the way there and said they got her stabilized. So I thought, oh, okay, whatever she did, I'm going to wring her neck. So I'm going to give her a piece of my mind, because we had initially thought she must have taken something, because my son said there was some Percocets on the dresser. So they told us right away that they didn't think she would make it, and she didn't.
When did you find out that this was the Percocets or the fentanyl in those fake Percocets? Did you know immediately, or was it you started kind of reveal itself after? There was
no opioids in her system, no benzos, no methamphetamines, nothing. Everything came up negative. So they were asking us, they even asked us, do you think she got a hold of fentanyl? And we were all like, no, she wouldn't do that. And her boyfriend ended up texting my other daughter at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And he had said, I have messages between her and the guy who gave her the pills, and he goes, she did take Percocets. And so we had told the nurse that she did take a Percocet, and the nurse said, well, we need to run a test for fentanyl. And so about 4 o'clock in the morning, after she had been in the hospital since a little bit after 8 the night before, they came back and said that she tested positive for fentanyl. So that's how we found out.
I'm so sorry. Did the police come to the hospital, or was there any police interaction in this whole thing? Now that you know that fentanyl is involved, were they at the hospital as well?
We did have a police officer show up later that day to take a report and a statement from us. When they called her time of death, we did have a police officer show up about an hour after, and he had to take pictures. It was really hard thing for me to see. I had to leave the room because they had to take pictures of her entire body.
When you got the cause of death, did it come back? What did the cause of death come back from the medical examiner?
Intoxication due to fentanyl poisoning.
And even at that point, had the police they had not gotten involved beyond that, beyond just the initial report?
So he said he was going to send her stuff over to the DEA, and that I would hear from the DEA, but I never got a call. And so I called the DEA probably about 6 or 7 times and didn't get a response. And so the last time I called them, I said, if somebody doesn't call me back, I'm going to go stand out in front of your building and I'm going to demand to see somebody and talk to someone about her case. I got a call back within a few hours from the detective, and then he called me back about a day later and he said, well, I'm going to talk to, my boss, and we're going to see what we can do about it. So it really basically was, I kind of had to, if I had not called the DEA, I don't think that they would have ever even known about her case at all.
Do you feel like maybe it's changed a little bit? Back in 2019, a lot of people still didn't know what fentanyl was.
Initially, they seemed like they were trying to work with us. I did have to bug them a lot. I say bug because I feel like I was constantly calling and emailing and trying to get them to do something. It was kind of upsetting, but I do know there are other parents who have recently lost their children who are still having some issues with the law enforcement. It's sad to say, but they keep asking me how I got something done. What did I do to get the attention that they want their kids to get for their fentanyl poisoning?
Now, we talked a little bit about this before we got on camera. Mm-hmm. Tell everybody a little bit about what you did, because after I heard this, I said, we're hiring over here at our agency too. You kind of became a little bit of a detective for your daughter.
Hannah's boyfriend had sent me a text a couple weeks later and said he still has the same phone number. I just texted him and he's still selling drugs. And he sent me the screenshots of the messages. And he had said in there that he moved to Tucson. So I kind of decided to do my own little, I guess, sleuthing, and I pretended like I was somebody else and used a fake number. Like I used one of those apps on my phone, and I started texting him, snuck some pictures of him and turned him over to the DEA, and I told him where he works, and this guy ended up telling me the days that he works. Never saw him face to face, except when I kind of went over there and took the pictures, but he didn't see me. And I gave them all the information, and they came down to Tucson and arrested him about 6 months after Hannah passed away.
And what's been the outcome of this arrest? So has he gone through his court process yet, or?
He has. On November 20th of 2023, they finally sentenced him. He only got 6 years in federal prison for causing her death. He didn't actually get sentenced until November of 2023, so it was almost 4.5 years later.
Wow. And you think about how many more lives he might have impacted in the 4 years.
Right.
And I know a friend of mine, Josephine Dunn, you've worked with her on the Ashley Dunn Act. And,
yeah, I know
and
that.
I've been down there testifying, trying to get the Ashley Dunn Act through. What would you like to see different in the state? When
you're a drug dealer and you know what you're giving somebody, and especially if they don't know what it is. I mean, he admitted, like in my case, he admitted that he knew that he was giving her fentanyl, even though she didn't ask for that. I feel like they need to be held more accountable. And, if it's going to cause a death, I think it should be a murder. And one thing that I know a lot of us want to change is calling it an overdose, because it's not an overdose. It's a poison.
I've been no matter where I go to a lot of police things and I hear the word overdose and I immediately, it makes me cringe, because most of these they're all poisonings, every single one of them, especially in a case like your daughter's, Hannah. This was not a fentanyl pill that she thought she was taking.
Right. It's
disingenuous, and it's not okay to the families who've lost loved ones, because these people are being poisoned with this dangerous drug.
They are. And I know the border issue is a problem. I don't really know what there is that we can do to get the border, make it stronger. But I think that's one of the problems is there's too much coming in through the border. But there's also, I feel like the people who are selling it aren't being held accountable in the way that they should be.
Yeah, I think you're right. We know where we can stop it from coming into the country, which is at the border. But there also needs to be some consequences for the people that are selling it here, that are causing the loss of life as well.
It sucks because, our kids died, or, somebody died from this, and it just needs to be taken more seriously.
I agree.
And I know that you're doing a lot, and I really appreciate that you're talking with me, because, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get the word out there, and we're trying to get the message out there. And
this was a reminder to us so that we can always do better, and that we need to, because it gets so easy to get these cases that come in, and sometimes you can be really dismissive. And so I appreciate you telling your story, because it helps remind us, these are families, these are people that lost a loved one, and we owe it to you, the families, to make sure that we dot every I and cross every T, and that we investigate these cases to their fullest. And there are people that are responsible. The people who sold them these drugs, they're responsible, and they should be held accountable.
yeah.
What message do you have for parents out there, parents of young children, family members, because this is transcending youth, it's transcending age. We are seeing younger people, we're seeing middle-aged, elderly. We even had in the state of Arizona in 2021, I believe there was 33 deaths from fentanyl poisonings, and 7 of them were under the age of 1.
Well, a little baby's going to put anything that they see in their mouth. And, it's horrible, because I have seen more and more lately of, children 3 years old, 2 years old, 11 months old, who are dying because they got a hold of something that their parents left out. My daughter told me 2 weeks before she died that she was smarter and she knew better, and that she would never do anything like this, that she would never take fentanyl. She wasn't that stupid. And then 2 weeks later, she's gone. So people need to be educated. If it's not out of a prescription bottle from your doctor and your pharmacist, then you have no idea what you're taking. It could be anything, and chances are it's going to have fentanyl in it. If something doesn't change, it's going to end up, there's not going to be a single family out there that isn't affected by fentanyl.
Well, thank you so much for coming here today and talking to us. And we know you're passionate about this, and I appreciate your passion for it, because I'm passionate about it as well. We see the impacts of what's happening, all the drugs coming across the border, all the drugs coming into our community, the fentanyl poisonings that are happening. I know that Hannah would be proud of you for what you're doing and the fight you're taking. Thank you for being with us today. Anything else?
I just want to thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and I look forward to working with you. We're going to be doing some stuff together and trying to combat this in every which way we can. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And Danya, thank you for coming here today.
Thank you. I
Appreciate it. Thank you.